The fluorescent lights hummed a monotonous tune overhead, a stark contrast to the internal turmoil swirling within Ethan Hayes. He tugged at the stiff, unfamiliar fabric of his intern facilities polo shirt. It felt like a costume, a world away from his usual bespoke suits. Ethan wasn't just another intern. He was Ethan Hayes, the founder and CEO of Zenith Innovations, a tech giant lauded for its innovative spirit. For 3 weeks, he'd been undercover, a silent observer in his own kingdom, trying to understand the pulse of Zenith from the ground up. He'd learned more than any shareholder report could ever reveal. The cafeteria coffee tasted suspiciously of burnt rubber, the ergonomic chairs were anything but, and Mark from IT had an inexplicable fondness for dubstep ringtones. But one employee, Maya Sharma, a bright and efficient project manager, had piqued his interest far beyond office quirks.
"There she goes again," whispered Olivia, a graphic designer whose desk sat beside Ethan's. It was the 4th time that day. Ethan watched as Maya practically bolted for the stairwell, her fingers a blur as she tapped on her phone. He couldn't miss the shadows clinging to her eyes, the barely there makeup attempting to mask a deeper exhaustion. "You know the rumors about her, right?" Olivia leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. "David from accounting swears he saw her arguing with some rough-looking characters in the parking garage last week. Loan sharks, maybe? Or something worse?" Ethan offered a non-committal nod, but his gut told him a different story. As a CEO, he'd honed the art of reading people, and Maya didn't fit the narrative Olivia painted. Her desk was a testament to order, adorned with snapshots of a smiling young girl, presumably her daughter. Her work was meticulous, her interactions with clients impeccably professional. Yet, every few hours, she would disappear, returning with a palpable sense of agitation, her smile a little too bright, a little too forced. Sometimes Ethan would catch her wiping away a stray tear, quickly composing herself before anyone noticed. The office gossip grew wilder by the day. Clandestine affairs, a secret life as a competitive gamer, even whispers of a hidden inheritance squandered on bad investments. But Ethan saw something else in her eyes, a deep-seated fear. What was Maya Sharma so afraid of? And why was she so determined to hide it? One particularly blustery Monday morning, the mystery deepened. Maya's phone buzzed during a presentation on the Q3 projections, and Ethan watched as all the color drained from her face. Her hands trembled so violently that she dropped her notes, scattering them across the conference table. As everyone scrambled to help, Ethan noticed a photograph that had slipped from her folder, a recent picture of a young girl, dressed in a tutu, beaming on what looked like a dance stage. Scrawled across the back, in angry, bold letters, were the words, "Time's running out." That was the moment Ethan knew he had to act. He could no longer stand by as a silent observer. The stakes were far too high. After lunch, when Maya made her usual hurried exit, Ethan waited precisely 1 minute before following. The stairwell led to a grimy loading dock, usually deserted save for delivery drivers and the occasional smoker seeking refuge from the office's stringent no-smoking policy. The wind howled through the narrow passage, whipping Maya's hair across her face as she hurried down the alleyway. Ethan kept his distance, using dumpsters and delivery trucks as cover. She moved with a grim determination, constantly glancing over her shoulder, clearly familiar with the route. It was a stark contrast to her polished office persona. She was no longer Maya Sharma, the efficient project manager. She was someone running, someone hunted. The alley opened into a small, desolate courtyard, surrounded by the backs of several buildings. Maya stopped near a graffiti-covered wall, pulling something from her purse. Even from his hiding spot, Ethan could see it was a thick, sealed envelope. Cash, he presumed. The sound of approaching footsteps made Maya flinch. She pressed herself against the wall, her breath catching in her throat. Ethan's heart pounded. He'd witnessed his share of corporate espionage and backroom deals, but this felt different, darker. This wasn't about business. This was about something deeply personal, something sinister. A figure emerged from the shadows, his polished dress shoes incongruous with the grimy surroundings. There was something vaguely familiar about his bearing, a swagger born of privilege and entitlement. Maya's reaction was immediate and visceral. She recoiled, clutching the envelope to her chest as if it were a shield. The air crackled with tension. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to intervene, but he forced himself to wait, to understand. The man's voice, cold and cutting,
echoed in the courtyard.
Let's see what you've brought me this time, Maya, darling.
Ethan's fists clenched. He watched as Maya extended the envelope, her hand shaking so violently that bills threatened to spill onto the grimy pavement. This wasn't a loan shark. This wasn't gambling. This was something far more insidious. The mystery he'd been unraveling for weeks was about to break wide open, and Ethan knew that what happened next would change not only Maya's life, but also his perception of the world lurking beneath the polished veneer of Zenith Innovations. As the man snatched the envelope from Maya's trembling hands, Ethan made a decision that would set in motion a chain of events none of them could have anticipated. The first act was drawing to a close, but the real drama was just beginning. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Ethan Hayes, Undercover CEO, realized that sometimes the most critical executive decisions are made not in boardrooms, but in rain-soaked alleyways where desperate people are forced to make impossible choices. The wind intensified as Ethan observed the scene unfold before him. The man, tall and imposing in a tailored coat, ripped open the envelope with a dismissive flick of his wrist, scattering a few bills onto the damp concrete. Maya didn't dare move to pick them up, her body paralyzed with fear.
5,000?
The man's voice sliced through the wind. We agreed on 7, Maya. You're testing my patience.
Please, Daniel.
Maya's voice cracked, betraying the iron will she displayed at work. Lily needed her therapy sessions this month. It was an emergency. I promise I'll get you the rest by next week. Not my problem, Daniel snapped, taking a step closer, his presence suffocating. You want to keep her? You pay what we agreed upon. Unless you prefer I reconsider the terms of our arrangement. Ethan's jaw tightened. The pieces were slotting into place with sickening clarity. This wasn't just about money. This was extortion, plain and simple. The man's expensive watch glinted in the dim light as he grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her closer.
Next time it's the full amount, or maybe I'll just pay Lily a visit myself. I'm sure she misses her uncle. Don't you dare threaten her.
Maya's voice rose, a flicker of defiance igniting in her eyes.
Oh, I wouldn't threaten, Maya. Just reminding you of the stakes. I have friends in high places, remember? People who value my generosity.
Daniel smiled, a chilling, predatory expression that made Ethan's blood run cold. As Daniel turned to leave, he deliberately ground his heel into the fallen bills, smearing them into the dirt. Clean that up, darling. Wouldn't want anyone thinking you're careless with your money. Sets a bad example for a mother, don't you think? Ethan waited until Daniel's footsteps faded into the distance before stepping out of the shadows. Maya had collapsed to her knees, frantically trying to salvage the soiled bills, her tears mingling with the rain.
Maya?
Ethan kept his voice gentle, but she still startled violently, scrambling backward until her back hit the wall.
Ethan, I can explain.
She clutched the wet money to her chest, mascara streaking down her cheeks.
Please, don't tell anyone at work. I need this job. I need...
Her voice broke completely. Ethan knelt beside her, shielding her from the wind with his jacket. Hey, it's okay. You're safe. But I need to know what's going on. That man, Daniel, he's threatening you? Something in his tone, perhaps the genuine concern, broke through Maya's defenses. The story poured out, a torrent of fear and desperation. Her toxic relationship with Daniel, a powerful real estate developer with deep connections, the subtle manipulation that had escalated into outright blackmail, how she'd finally summoned the courage to leave when she discovered he'd been embezzling funds from the charity she runs.
But he won't let me go,
Maya sobbed, wiping her eyes, leaving dark smudges on her sleeve.
He's threatening to destroy my reputation, turn all my colleagues against me.
He's already sent anonymous letters to the charity donors claiming I'm mismanaging funds. It's a lie, but he has the power to make people believe it. Ethan helped Maya to her feet, noting her exhaustion. Why haven't you gone to the police?
I tried. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering.
Daniel has connections everywhere.
My statement mysteriously disappeared. Besides, he threatened to release compromising photos of me if I went to the police. The pieces of the puzzle were clicking into place, creating a grim picture. Here was one of his most valuable employees, a woman who consistently exceeded expectations while carrying an unbearable weight. The late nights, the strained smile, the missed deadlines. It all made sense now. How much does he want? Ethan asked, already strategizing. $20,000, Maya whispered. He said if I don't pay, he'll release the photos to the press, ruin my career, destroy everything I've worked for. Ethan helped Maya to her feet, noting how she swayed with exhaustion. Why haven't you told anyone about this? About what he is doing? Who would believe me? Maya laughed, a hollow, broken sound. He's Daniel. He's rich, influential. I'm just me. Besides, I can't risk bringing shame to Zenith. Ethan placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. You don't have to face this alone, Maya. She looked up at him, hope and fear warring in her eyes. Ethan, I appreciate that, but you don't understand. Daniel, he has lawyers, journalists, powerful allies. He's untouchable. A small smile tugged at the corner of Ethan's mouth. If only she knew who she was talking to. Tell me everything, he said, guiding her towards a small cafe across the street. Every detail, every threat, every tactic he's used against you. Leave nothing out. As they settled into a quiet corner booth, Maya began to talk, unaware that her story was about to reach the ears of someone with the power to truly make a difference. Ethan Hayes might be playing the part of a facilities intern, but he had resources of his own. Resources that would soon make Daniel regret ever crossing Maya and her daughter. The game was about to change, and Daniel had no idea he was about to face an opponent who could match him power for power, connection for connection. It wasn't always like this. Maya's voice was soft, distant as she recounted her past with Daniel. The cafe had begun to empty, the low hum of conversation slowly fading out. He was charming, at first. He was exactly what I thought I wanted. Someone successful, someone confident, someone who could take care of me. Ethan listened intently, watching her hands tremble as she gripped her coffee cup. When did things change? A shadow crossed Maya's face. It was gradual, little things at first. Criticizing my clothes, my friends, telling me how to manage my finances. I brushed it off as concern, but it was control. He wanted to control every aspect of my life. She took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. The real change came after I invested in a building he wanted to tear down for new construction. He was furious. He started sending me threatening letters, even showing up at Lily's school. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Have you kept those? Maya nodded, her gaze downcast. I have copies of everything. Every email, every message, every payment I made. I knew deep down that one day I would need them. And why didn't you reveal the documents you had? Ethan queried curiously. Because I was afraid, Maya admitted. I was afraid he would find out, and then he would take everything from me. My job, my daughter, my life. The cafe was almost deserted now, the staff starting to stack chairs and wipe down tables. Maya checked her watch, her eyes widening with panic. I should get back to work, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't risk losing my job. It's the only thing keeping us afloat. As they stood to leave, Maya paused, turning to Ethan with a mixture of desperation and determination in her eyes. I know how this looks, she said, her voice trembling. Everyone probably thinks I'm crazy, that I'm making this up. But I swear, everything I've told you is true. I just want to protect Lily. She's all I have. Ethan looked at her, his heart filled with a mixture of admiration and empathy. I believe you, Maya, he said, his voice firm and unwavering. And I promise, I'm going to help you. As they walked back to Zenith, Ethan's mind was already racing. He needed to gather more information, to understand the full extent of Daniel's power and influence. He needed to build a case that was airtight. A case that would not only protect Maya, but also expose Daniel for who he truly was. And he needed to do it all while maintaining his cover as Ethan Hayes, facilities intern. It was a daunting task, but Ethan was determined to see it through. He couldn't stand by and watch as someone like Daniel preyed on innocent people, destroying their lives for personal gain. He needed to find a way to use his power and privilege to make a difference, to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. The rain had stopped,
and a sliver of sun peeked through the clouds, casting a ray of hope onto the grimy streets. As they reached the entrance to Zenith, Ethan paused, placing a hand on Maya's shoulder. "Don't worry, Maya," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "Everything is going to be all right." Back in his penthouse office after hours, Ethan Hayes shed his intern persona and got to work. The panoramic view of the city stretched out before him, a reminder of the vast network of power and influence he commanded. Multiple screens displayed information about Daniel, his business dealings, his social connections, and the intricate web of control he'd woven around himself. "Sarah," Ethan spoke into his phone, his voice sharp and commanding. "I need everything you can find on Daniel, his business records, his personal life. Leave no stone unturned." Sarah, his most trusted private investigator, had a reputation for getting results, no matter how difficult the task. Within hours, Ethan's inbox was flooded with reports, documents, and surveillance footage. He spent the night sifting through the information, piecing together a damning portrait of Daniel's corrupt empire. Property records revealed suspicious transactions, with valuable properties changing hands for suspiciously low prices. Financial statements showed a pattern of embezzlement, with funds siphoned from Maya's charity into secret offshore accounts. "I have something," Sarah's message pinged on his screen. "Daniel has a history of abusing his partners. 3 former girlfriends filed restraining orders against him, but the cases were mysteriously dropped. He has the police in his pocket." Ethan frowned. He needed more than just allegations. He needed concrete evidence, something that would hold up in court. "Keep digging," he instructed Sarah. "There has to be something more, something that connects him to the threats against Maya." Meanwhile, at Zenith, Ethan continued to play his role as the clueless intern, observing Maya from a distance. He saw the stress etched on her face, the dark circles under her eyes, the constant anxiety that haunted her every move. Daniel had been escalating his demands, calling Maya several times a day, berating her, threatening to expose her secrets if she didn't comply. "Good morning, Maya," Ethan said, placing a cup of coffee on her desk. "Rough night?" Maya forced a smile. "Just a few deadlines," she replied, her voice strained. "Thanks, Ethan." Ethan knew she was lying. He could see the fear in her eyes, the desperation that threatened to consume her. He had to act fast. He couldn't let Daniel continue to torment her. That night, Sarah sent him a breakthrough report. She had discovered a connection between Daniel and a notorious hacker. The hacker was hired to break into Maya's personal email account, Sarah explained. He stole compromising photos and messages, then passed them on to Daniel. Ethan felt a surge of anger. Daniel wasn't just a bully, he was a criminal. He was using technology to terrorize Maya, to control her, to destroy her life. "Can you trace the IP address?" Ethan asked. "Can you find out where the emails were sent from?" "I already did," Sarah replied. "The hacker sent the emails from a burner phone purchased with cash, but I was able to recover some deleted files from his computer. I think you'll find them interesting." Sarah sent Ethan a link to a folder containing screenshots of the emails and messages Daniel had sent to the hacker, detailing his plan to destroy Maya's reputation. It was the smoking gun Ethan needed. He had the evidence to take Daniel down, to expose him for who he truly was. But he needed to be careful. He couldn't risk alerting Daniel. He needed to plan his move strategically. "The report is on Daniel's financial transactions. I found a hidden offshore account," Sarah explained. He'd been manipulating Leo's school records, paying staff to document concerning behaviors that only seemed to occur during his Super Prova's visits. The school principal, facing financial difficulties, had recently received an anonymous donation that coincided with a damning report about Leo's emotional state. Ethan watched through the office windows as Sophie took another call from Travis, her face crumpling as she listened. This time Travis was demanding she sign over her rights to the small inheritance her grandmother had left her for Leo's future, he claimed. "Send me everything you have on Judge Matthews," Daniel instructed Sarah. "Every connection, every favor, every skeleton in his closet. It's time to level the playing field. I'm going to have to expose him publicly. I will make him pay for what he did. He will not get away with this." The next day, Ethan orchestrated a seemingly casual encounter with Maya near the office coffee machine. He needed to gauge her state of mind, assess whether she was close to breaking. "Maya, how are you holding up?" He kept his voice low, laced with genuine concern. She offered a weak smile, stirring her coffee with a trembling hand. I'm managing. Daniel's been persistent. He's demanding more and more. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Ethan's resolve hardened. It was time to bring this to an end. I need to tell you something, Maya. Something that might change everything. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Remember when I said I was just a facilities intern? Well, that wasn't entirely true. He watched her eyes widen with confusion. What do you mean? My name is Ethan Hayes. I'm the founder and CEO of Zenith Innovations. Maya stared at him, speechless. You're my boss. Ethan nodded. I came here undercover to get a better understanding of the company from the ground up. And what I've learned has been eye-opening, especially what's been happening to you. He saw a flicker of hope ignite in her eyes, mingled with disbelief. You know about Daniel? I know everything, Maya. The threats, the blackmail, the stolen photos, everything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a flash drive. I have the evidence to take him down, but I need your help. Maya hesitated, her face etched with fear. I don't know, Ethan. Daniel is powerful. I'm afraid of what he might do if he finds out I've gone to the police. You won't be alone, Maya. I'll be with you every step of the way. And I promise you, he won't be able to touch you. I won't let him. He offered her a reassuring smile. Trust me, Maya. This is the only way to stop him. The only way to protect yourself and Lily. After a moment of agonizing deliberation, Maya nodded, her eyes filled with newfound determination. Okay, Ethan. I'll do it. I'm ready to fight back. That afternoon, Ethan and Maya met with Margaret Chin, Zenith's head of legal counsel. He presented her with the evidence he'd gathered, the emails, the financial records, the hacker's testimony. Margaret listened intently, her expression growing increasingly grim. This is damning, she said, her voice tight with anger. Daniel has been engaging in criminal activity for years. We have enough evidence here to bring him down. I want to do more than just bring him down, Ethan said, his voice hard. I want to make sure he can never hurt anyone again. I want to expose him for who he truly is. Margaret nodded in agreement. I'll prepare a statement for the police and the media. We'll make sure everyone knows the truth about Daniel. The following morning, the story broke. The news outlets were flooded with reports of Daniel's crimes, the allegations of blackmail and abuse, the evidence of financial fraud. The public was outraged. Daniel's reputation was shattered, his business empire crumbling before his eyes. Daniel, caught completely off guard, scrambled to defend himself, issuing denials and accusations, but no one believed him. The evidence was too overwhelming, the testimony too compelling. The police launched an investigation, seizing his assets and questioning his associates. Meanwhile, Ethan and Maya held a press conference to share their story. Maya spoke bravely, recounting the years of abuse and manipulation she had endured, her voice filled with emotion and determination. She spoke about the importance of standing up to injustice, of breaking the cycle of silence and fear. Her words resonated deeply with the public, inspiring countless other victims to come forward and share their own stories of abuse. Maya became a symbol of hope, a voice for the voiceless, a champion for justice. And Daniel? He was arrested and charged with multiple felonies, facing years in prison. His world had come crashing down around him, his power and influence stripped away, his reputation forever tarnished. He had underestimated Maya's courage and Ethan's determination. He had believed he was untouchable, but he was wrong. In the aftermath of the scandal, Zenith Innovations underwent a transformation. Ethan implemented new policies to protect employees from abuse and harassment, creating a safe and supportive work environment. He established a confidential hotline for employees to report misconduct, and he launched a training program to educate managers on how to identify and respond to signs of abuse. And Maya? She flourished. With Daniel gone, she was finally able to live without fear. She excelled in her role as a project manager, earning accolades and respect for her hard work and dedication. She became a mentor to other women in the company, sharing her experiences and inspiring them to reach their full potential. One evening, as Ethan was working late in his office, Maya knocked on his door. He looked up, smiling. "Come in, Maya."
She walked in, her face radiant with happiness. "I just wanted to thank you, Ethan," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "For everything. For believing in me. For helping me fight back. For giving me a second chance."
Ethan smiled warmly. "You don't have to thank me, Maya. You did this yourself. You were the one who had the courage to stand up to Daniel. I just gave you the support you needed." "Still," she said, "I wouldn't be where I am today without you. You changed my life, Ethan. You gave me hope when I thought all hope was lost." Ethan stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city lights. "Sometimes," he said, his voice thoughtful, "it takes seeing things from a different perspective to truly understand what's important. Going undercover at Zenith taught me a lot about leadership, about responsibility, about the power of compassion." He turned back to Maya, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I'm proud of you, Maya. You've overcome so much. You're an inspiration to everyone at Zenith, and you're a true friend." Maya smiled, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "Thank you, Ethan," she said. "You're a good man, and you're a great leader." As Maya left his office, Ethan felt a sense of peace and satisfaction. He had used his power and privilege to make a positive impact on someone's life, to help them find their courage and their voice, and in doing so, he had transformed not only Zenith Innovations, but also himself. Have you ever witnessed injustice in the workplace and felt powerless to act? What steps can we take to create a more supportive and equitable work environment? What can you learn from this to prevent, minimize risks happening to you? We hope this story has resonated with you. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories and valuable insights. And always, wishing you the best of health, and may you shine brightly on the road ahead.